Hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host amazing guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. I'm Peter Allen Clark, Senior Analyst and Editor, Media Content at eMarketer, and it's great to have you with us today as we explore how B2B brands are tackling data fragmentation, measurement challenges, and privacy demands with the help of clean room technology. Joining us for this great discussion are three great guests here. First off, we've got Benji Schechner, Business Development Manager, Measurement and Clean Room, CTV and Mobile at LinkedIn. Hey there, Benji. How are you doing today?
Good, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We also have Christy Zock, Senior Enterprise Systems Analyst at SAS. Hello there, Christy.
Hi.
Hi. And last, we have Ali Risbridger, Director of Media Partnerships at LiveRamp. Hello there, Ali. How are you doing today?
Hi, Peter. Hi, everybody. Good, thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. To our audience, we'd love to hear from you today. So please drop your questions into the chat window on the right, and we'll answer as many questions as we can during the live Q&A later on in the show. But first, we have a great panel discussion planned for you today. And before that, Ali, I think it's over to you to set the scene.
Great. Thank you, Peter. So as many of you here on the line know, as B2B marketers, B2B marketers really face unique challenges, even when compared to your consumer peers. And so we wanted to start by just highlighting what some of those nuances are for B2B marketers specifically. And then you'll hear from Christy and Benji about how SAS and LinkedIn partnered together, leveraging LiveRamp's clean room technology to address some of these challenges. And so, historically, B2B marketers have really lacked scalable solutions that enable you or them to unlock the value of first party data and to leverage second and third party data to ultimately power marketing initiatives. And even more so, really just navigating the B2B data and measurement landscape is complex and comes with these unique challenges. So starting with nuanced buyer journeys, of course, with B2B marketing, there's longer sales cycles. You have committees that are making purchase decisions, right? So you have a lot of times, I think the average is like 7 or more influencers and decision makers who are involved in procuring an enterprise solution. And then there's fragmented data. And so it can be really, really difficult to capture the signal from all of those various touch points and really resolve the impact of media and conversions or actions to those same individuals and those same accounts. And so that brings us into fragmented data silos. And so it can be difficult to compile both individual level data and account level data into a cohesive data set that can really be leveraged to action on, right? So that data can live in multiple platforms. You have your CRM database, you might have web signals, you have ad server data, partner data sets from your publisher partners. And that all lives in different environments and can be owned by different teams and has varying states of accuracy and completeness. So it can be difficult to really resolve and take action on all of that data in your own environment, let alone partner data sets. And so you'll hear from Christy and Benji how they were able to kind of unlock the power of SaaS's first party data and then enrich that and round out the picture of their customers with LinkedIn's partner data set. Ultimately, what that helps do is reduce wasted spend. So in addition to having nuanced buyer journeys and fragmented data, that make understanding the true impact of a B2B campaign difficult. We also know that the campaign objectives can vary dramatically. You might have several campaigns running with different objectives, pipeline generation, right? Awareness campaigns. Maybe you're tracking white paper downloads and ultimately purchases and kind of how those opportunities are moving through the buyer journey. It can be really, really difficult to capture all of that signal and ultimately use that to minimize wasted spend and understand what media is truly driving conversion. So again, you'll hear from Benji and Christy today on how their collaboration helped to reduce wasted spend by better understanding those signals and really what was impacting the purchase journey. And then last but not least, it can be difficult to scale with B2B data. So not only do B2B audiences tend to start smaller than consumer audiences would, but then there can be data loss in the onboarding process. And so many onboarding solutions to get audiences to end platforms and publishers are built for consumer marketing. LiveRamp does address this challenge with a B2B onboarding solution that ultimately links business emails and consumer emails. And then it's really important to enrich first party B2B audiences with data collaboration with key partners like LinkedIn and leveraging their member data, as well as third-party data providers that can help scale audiences in the B2B ecosystem. So those are some of the challenges that LinkedIn and SaaS were able to solve here, leveraging LiveRamp's platform. I'll let you hear from them directly. First from Benji as he talks to the LinkedIn program.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali. As Ali mentioned, I really wanted to give some context to what is LinkedIn's Advanced Insights offering. And as we just heard, B2C is quite different than B2B. And as LinkedIn is really where B2B marketing happens, we wanted to make sure we had a clean room offering that really has that B2B flavor. And so just to lay that foundation and that context of what a clean room is, it is a privacy enhancing technology which really allows two parties to bring together data safely for analysis without exposing the underlying data to either party. And so in LinkedIn's case, Advanced Insights is the name of our clean room offering where one side will bring their data, or rather we will bring our data, the 1 billion members or 69 million companies and all the different advertising activities, impressions, clicks, views from our LinkedIn feed, our LinkedIn audience network, as well as our different formats like CTV, sponsored posts, thought leadership ads, all really on that one side. And then advertisers like SaaS will be able to bring their first party data, audience data, conversion data, transaction data, which really gets brought together with this LinkedIn data in a neutral environment powered by LiveRamp for planning, activation, and measurement use cases, including incrementality. And so what makes our clean room offering really a little more about that B2B is one, the ability to match on accounts, right? It's not just about matching at the individual level, but also you can match at the company level. And then as well, we do have these longer look backs, right? You're not just doing your typical 7-day or 30-day look back window, but you can go up to 18 months. So really giving you that extensive look back. But enough about, what the offering really is. I will pass it to Christy to really talk about, what she was able to do with the clean room. Christy?
Thanks, Benji. So I'm really representing a good team of people working on this, so I have to give credit where credit is due, but I'm going to do my best to tell a little bit about our story. And to talk about the business challenge or the technology challenge here, I really have to back up a little bit to our business challenge. And in the last few years, the data and AI space has been heating up pretty strongly. And SaaS has been really leading the enterprise analytics space for almost 50 years now. And in the last several years, as things are getting exciting, some of our market research had told us that people were still seeing our brand as something that might be the programming language, and they weren't really aware of all of what we were doing in the AI space and all of our industry solutions and all of the things that we do serving our enterprise clients. So that was something we had to change. We definitely started beefing up our brand presence and really working on a more cohesive brand strategy rather than just demand generation, white papers, and some of those things. We still do those things. We still support a lot of our clients with great research, but developing our brand was important to us. And LinkedIn has kind of helped us with some of that strategy from the start, and then we've used them for some of the technical implementation. So when it comes to the technical problem, what happens here, as you guys have already said, it's a very different world. A white paper is demand generation. It uses a whole different set of metrics than some of our digital advertising. And we had to find a new way to approach that. A lot of our team, what's really a strong strength, we have data scientists, we use our software to do analytics and optimization. These teams have gotten really, really excellent at direct attribution. They could correlate and give us really good direction and optimization over time. So we're really efficient about our spend. On the downside, it does inherently lean itself towards things where you get that direct attribution, really not taking into account things that are happening in the market today and all of the upper funnel contacts. It really is focused towards that last touch and not getting up into that brand and reputation layer that we wanted to. So the solution we went to is working with LinkedIn. We partner with them on a lot of different activities in the B2B space. And we decided to use the clean room. We decided to determine what data we were comfortable with sharing in general, even uploading to the clean room environment. We went through our privacy folks and got approval, and the legal team had reviewed that. And we uploaded about 1.5 years of some of our historical business opportunities into the clean room. where they could match it with some of the LinkedIn activity that was happening more upper funnel prior exposure and touch points that they've had there. So what happened after we did that? It's been a journey, I will say. It's been a fun journey, but we were able to determine that 75% of our opportunities across our funnel have been touched by our advertising, which is really our LinkedIn advertising, which is really a testament to our audience. It validates that for us. It tells us that we're targeting and we're meeting people where they are. It also addresses the challenge that we have as a business, that we're not just generating leads, but we're also expected to help accelerate and move those leads along through the funnel. So this was a really important kind of metric for us. And we were really, kind of happy to see that. It was really validating for our digital team. We also saw the really positive correlation with deal velocity and win rate. So the higher level of exposure that they had, the higher level of engagement that they were having with some of our LinkedIn platform data, deals were closing up to 17% faster than deals where they didn't have high exposure on the LinkedIn platform. So that, again, was another validation point. And I have something for the people that sometimes tell us that they throw accusatory, those are vanity metrics when we talk about some of our digital metrics. I know that CPMs and things can get a little bit daunting, and we know some of the balancing act there, but the engagement and some of the other ones, like the video view rates and the actual engagements on platform and other things, we found that when they had the campaigns that had a higher quality there were also highly correlated with deal creation and deal wins in our pipeline. So like in the 3 to 5 times more likely to close a win than in ones that didn't have exposure to some of our brand activities beforehand. So we're really happy with those findings so far and very excited to be part of the program.
That's great. Thank you so much for that introduction to this topic, Christy and Ali and Benji. I'd love to dive deeper and hear the ways that marketers can make use of this technology. So I've just got some questions to ask to kick off this discussion. Benji, I'd like to start with you. Christy gave us this great overview of how LinkedIn's clean room technology impacted SaaS. Can you give us insights on that usage from LinkedIn's perspective? How are other advertisers using it?
Totally. So what Christy and the SaaS team really found, right, measuring and finding out the impact of the brand and campaigns really on pipeline generation and that lower funnel, metrics, that is very common with what our advertisers are finding when they use the clean room. And really as well, advertisers are using it for all different types of analysis, like reach and frequency analysis, to really understand what is the maximum amount of frequency that they should be, hitting their accounts with before, to minimize, as Ali mentioned, minimize that ad waste. And, what they're able to do, for example, like one advertiser found that their sweet spot was like 75 impressions over the last 120 days at the account level. And after that, they really saw these diminishing returns. So they were able to take that away from our clean room and really able to apply that to all of their different media plans, not just on LinkedIn.
Cool. Ali, I'd love to ask you this question. So from the technology side, what made this collaboration technically or operationally successful?
Yeah, absolutely. So you heard from Christy and Benji, like the incredible kind of what and why and what they were able to uncover with the data collaboration in the clean room. And what's important is also the how, like how they were able to get there. And that's with a platform that enabled interoperability and really a privacy-centric platform as well, and then flexibility. So what I mean by that is, it's increasingly important in today's kind of consumer privacy environment to ensure that partners can keep data in their own environment. So Benji spoke to this a little bit at the top, but basically this idea of cross-cloud interoperability is really important. What we mean by that is that data can stay in LinkedIn's environment and data can stay in SaaS's environment in this example, and they can actually query and run analytics across those data sets without having to send data all over the place like it used to be. And that's part of what the clean room unlocks. And that's important for privacy teams and security teams. Additionally, the clean room has privacy enhancing technologies built into it. And so I won't go into too much of the fine details of privacy protections, although I'm happy to if anybody is interested to reach out after, but I won't bore you all. But essentially, there's modular privacy controls in the clean room platform. And so what that means is that both parties can feel comfortable that their data is protected at the level that they need it to be protected. That will vary, of course, depending on who the customer is or who the company is. But there are configurable privacy controls. And it's really important to have those to get privacy and legal teams comfortable to do new and innovative things with data sets that maybe historically have not been possible. And so the clean room technology really kind of unlocks the power of first party data, and the sum is greater than, or sorry, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts in this case, when LinkedIn and SAS are able to then collaborate on those data sets in a privacy centric way, you could unlock this level of insight and action that they were able to. The last thing I would say is the flexibility is really important. So having a platform that instead of like black box methodology with third party measurement, this is really a transparent two-way conversation between the parties where there can be flexibility in how the queries and the measurement is being generated. You heard from Christy, like the measurement here was quite custom and flexible, and they were able to keep digging and kind of generate insights that weren't possible with other measurement solutions because of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Christy, I know you talked a little bit about the vanity metrics, but what other sort of tangible business outcomes have you realized from this collaboration, like improved ROI, pipeline growth, deeper understanding of customer behavior, et cetera?
Yeah, I pretty much all of those things, but
Yeah.
we're definitely still working on it. So the real focus again was to start with looking at our brand where it was really a challenge for us, but we really validated a lot of the demand metrics as well, and that was also very helpful. We do demand metric ROI, but what we're still working with is to determine how that brand level ROI can be factored in, because it just doesn't operate quite the same way. However, as I've seen in other LinkedIn presentations, we've done mixed modeling, and we are able to kind of correlate all of these things to kind of strengthen our approach to the modeling. And then also it's important is that afterwards we've done tests and checking. So you validate and then kind of retest the model. So we'll be continuing to do it periodically and still keep validating the strength of our data and seeing if it starts to shift. So those are all kind of ways that we've been using it.
Well, how has this changed how your marketing team reports or demonstrates impact to senior leadership? How's it changed?
So it has a little bit. It is
Mhm.
still doesn't have quite all the auto feeding dashboards like our other data does in real lifetime, because we tend to do the upload quarterly and then do a retrospective on it.
Yeah.
But we are working it into that, and we're also changing that expectation, because we really had to face that challenge a lot internally with marketing, that the numbers for brand weren't showing up in demand reports the way that demand activities were. And as much as you explained it theoretically, people still kind of wanted to see something else. They wanted more meat on the bone. So this
Yeah.
helps us do that and really justify that we should not look at it the same way.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense to me. Benji, from LinkedIn's perspective, how do you measure the success of clean room partnerships? What KPIs or benchmarks matter most to gauge that?
Totally. So as Christy mentioned, part of LinkedIn's process really is starting with that business question, right? Which is what matters to the advertiser? Why are they here? A lot of times advertisers come to the clean room offering because they need a deeper level of insights that might not be available via our different or other measurement capabilities, like our conversion API, our insights tag. And we have the ability in that clean room really to do that customization, really do, maybe some different analysis looking at what the brand campaign impact was versus the demand campaign, maybe together, right? Doing some different overlaps on that front. And so what we typically hear as the number one starting use case is this, I want to just measure impact in terms of pipeline generation or ROI. But as I mentioned, it could vary advertiser to advertiser. And one thing that I think is really important that you really just heard from Christy is really that the partners leaned in, right? So in this case, Christy and team were dedicated. They have a whole team behind them that are working to really analyze the data, upload the data, make sure the data is fresh, and then really, act against it, right? We want to make sure it's not just insights for insight's sake, but really actionable insights that you then optimize against.
Yeah. Uh, Christy, Benji talked about sort of the team working on that internally, but I'm curious sort of what did it take internally from leadership to get buy-in to data readiness to sort of successfully launch this collaboration in a clean room environment? What did it take to start the process?
Well, I don't want to make people jealous on this one, but we do have a pretty visionary leadership, and we're also, data heavy. So we are data hungry. We love to be data forward. So that's not a hard sell with a company like SAS. Our marketing leader, again, she looked at the business challenge and said, we have to do something about this. And she started kind of shifting resources. So it was up to us to try to determine that optimization. After that, we use the LinkedIn templates. They're partners with us in a lot of ways, and we're always willing to kind of be the first to try some of the new data-oriented services that they have. So we kind of jumped in. We had to get through the checks, as I noted earlier, with legal. Privacy is very important to us. So it is something that we had to make sure we had all the approvals in the right places and that we're comfortable with the environment. It had to go through our IT and technical review as well before we were able to proceed forward with it.
But that's great to have that support. That sounds like an awesome situation. And Benji, what are your takeaways from this partnership in general, or others like it? What does it take, and others like it? What it takes to have a successful collaboration? What are the takeaways from that?
Yeah, so definitely having, again, the partner being leaned in is important. As Christy mentioned, part of our process, the way we really go from start to finish with one of these clean room engagements is first, talking about the business use case. And then we would go into a data deep dive where we're getting a little more tactical, but really focusing on what data LinkedIn needs to bring, what data the advertiser needs to bring, just to make sure everyone's on the same page about what is needed on both sides. And then we can kick off that privacy review just to make sure everyone is comfortable with this really, privacy first type of solution.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'd love to ask you, all of you, this question. Many organizations are curious, but unsure sort of where to begin, and they might not have that sort of forward-looking leadership that Christy mentioned. Do you all have any strategies or advice on how to get started exploring clean room technology? Anybody can just jump in here, or I can call names.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. Yeah,
Oh
so
yeah, please.
Christy and Benji really hit on a lot of the markers of like what we see as, at LiveRamp, what we see as successful collaborations, what it takes to have successful collaborations. I would say that the best place to start, as they noted, is what is the question you want to answer, or what other questions you want to answer? So what are the use cases? And then from there, you work backward. Okay, what data sets do I need to bring in? What do I need privacy to review to ensure that I can bring those data sets in and start working through some of the privacy and legal components early. But I think really first and foremost, it is what do you want to use the technology for? So rather than, oh, we want to do a clean room collaboration, it's is there a question I want to answer that I haven't been able to historically with my measurement solutions? And could I gain a better understanding of my current and prospective customers by leveraging a partner's data set? And so, yeah, I think just it's really key to just start with those use cases and have a super clear learning agenda between your two parties, and then bring privacy and legal in early to the conversation once you've aligned on those, because that is typically where we see probably the most time investment is getting privacy and legal on the same page once you've aligned.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anybody else have any strategies or advice to get started?
I will just echo that because we have a partnership with LinkedIn, they were very aware of a lot of our business goals and objectives and challenges, which is why they brought it to us. And their templates and their ability to kind of start with the common questions that they get from a lot of their customers was very helpful to help us hone in where we were and how we were focusing. And also can't say enough good things about the support from our LiveRamp team, because I am what you might call the citizen data scientist, where I work with data scientists. I understand how it works, but I don't run the models. I work more with our business people, and I'm kind of between that layer. And I'm a little technical, but not as technical. You don't have to be that technical to be able to do it, which is great.
That's super helpful. Well,
Great
let me
point.
ask one last question in this discussion before we turn over to the audience Q&A. Christy, it's for you. If you don't mind, one more last question before we move on to the audience. I'd love to know sort of any lessons, sort of following this process. You did such a great job sort of giving the impact and what it took and how you began even investigating the situation, the topic. What are the lessons or best practices that you can share with other brands who may be interested in exploring this collaboration within clean rooms?
Yeah, I'm going to echo the have a question, know what you're trying to answer, and
Mhm.
be a little focused. One of the challenges we also have is that once we have something that's working well, everybody wants to do it, and we have to try to prioritize and support the business units that work with us. So we try to look at it from holistically,
Mhm.
and we'll be working on supporting all the units later. But as with any good test or any starting point, I think if you try to make it too big too soon, you will kind
Mm.
of wear yourself out. So I think start small and do one step at a time. Have a question in mind and look to validate it.
That's great advice. Benji, Christy, and Allie, thank you so much for this great conversation. It's really useful to
Thank
hear
you.
how brands can kick off their own sort of clean room experience. We've got a few questions from the audience, and so if you all have the time, I'd love to jump in and get to some of this Q&A. Let's see.
Great.
First one here is for you, Allie. What innovations are on the horizon for clean room technology, and how might they continue to transform B2B marketing?
Great. Yes. Thank you. Well, it's amazing we made it almost 30 minutes into a tech talk without talking about AI. So I think the first thing I would say is we're really excited about AI assisted analytics and measurement in the clean room. You know, having empowering AI with not only your first party data, but unique data assets through data collaboration. So, in this example, being able to round out the understanding of the SaaS customer with the LinkedIn member data is super powerful in and of itself. Being able to use AI to then analyze those data sets in a privacy centric way is very, very powerful. And so, I think that's certainly where we see this headed is just to increase the speed to value from these collaborations by doing things like asking the question in natural language in the clean room and having AI generate the query and ultimately the visualizations. And so that those are capabilities that we can enable today, and we're seeing more and more adoption of. So super excited about that. And then the other thing is cross-channel measurement, or what we call cross-media intelligence at LiveRamp, which is really just a clean room environment where, again, there's interoperability. Data can stay in each company's cloud environment, but we can actually generate cross-publisher, cross-channel insights in a deduplicated, unified view. So very excited about that innovation and seeing more and more adoption of that as well, both on the buy and the sell side.
That's great. Yeah, we did break a record for longest webinar without
I
mentioning
know.
AI in 2025, I'm sure.
I think I mentioned it earlier, though.
Oh,
I
no.
will
Oh,
say.
okay. Oh, I missed the buzzer.
Yeah.
Data and AI all at our heart. That's what we
The
do.
Guinness people are turning around right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's another one from the audience. For Christy, does SaaS have any recommendations for business leaders who are trying to make the case on their side? I guess maybe this is asking people who aren't, like I said, aren't forward-thinking, looking leadership like you experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I think the data starts to speak for itself. So if you structure it well and you make the case for it and you have the business question that you're trying to solve for, finance people really buy into that as well. They use that same strategy in a lot of other ways. So it applies in the same methodology. So if you're clear about what you're hoping to get from it, just like doing market research or doing any other project, I think that you can make that case and find internal people that will support you in that effort. You know, we had some detractors that, were comfortable with where they were and comfortable with the tactics and strategies they were using for years that were successful. But we had to kind of slowly work that team, and our brand team has really been doing a great job at that in general. And the marketing sciences and the digital team really support them in that. So find your friends and work on the data.
Build that community. Yeah, that's great. Here's another one. It could be for everyone, but maybe Ali or Benji, maybe you could take this. Is there a minimum amount of data required to use a clean room? And is the clean room a self-service environment?
I'm happy to
Do you
take
want to
this
take
one,
it for
Ali.
LinkedIn? Okay.
Yeah, as I was saying, you might be able to do it across the board, but from the
Yeah.
LinkedIn side, there's not necessarily a minimum amount of data that's really needed. The way that really works in the clean room is just that, again, there's this match, and then we really are able to do that analysis on what the match data was. The more data you have, the greater amount of signal, the greater amount of match. Um, and then in terms of self-service, and Ali, you can definitely back me up on this. And I think even Christy mentioned, right? Part of the reason that we do have our clean room powered by LiveRamp is because it is self-service. So LinkedIn is really there to be that B2B guide, right? As Christy mentioned, maybe this is our recommendation based on what we've seen other advertisers do in terms of pipeline measurement. Or maybe this is the right amount of impressions or clicks in this type of look back window. But in terms of running the queries and then getting
Mhm.
that results back and rerunning it, you can do it, right? Without, we don't want it to be gate kept by only someone who knows code who's able to get that type of data, but really make sure that it is self-serve. That was the goal of the platform.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Oh, sorry, please continue, Ali.
No, thanks, Peter. Yeah, thanks, Benji. I was just going to say, from I guess from the live room, clean room perspective, also more broadly. So each partner will have their own kind of rules and decisions that they make about how much data needs to be in the clean room. So Benji spoke to LinkedIn's platform and that there's not really that requirement and it is more self-service. And as we've seen, like with LinkedIn, kind of the pre-packaged insights and being able to provide what I think of as like a starter pack to brands who are getting started in clean rooms of here are the insights, you can have off the shelf and run self-service. And then there can be a greater level of kind of customization beyond that with the partners directly. So yes, part of it is putting the power in the advertiser's hands to actually run the queries and analytics themselves, with the partners agreeing to that type of measurement beforehand. So much more hands-on self-service than some other like third-party measurement solutions.
Got it, got it. Speaking of queries, here's one that mentions them. Who defines the use cases for queries to be run, or are they standardized by LinkedIn's team? Can you speak on challenges to using clean rooms, such as technical data or bandwidth challenges?
I think that was like a multi-part question, so I want to
Yeah.
make sure I
Oh, yeah.
tackle that
Pardon me. Yeah.
in time. So it sounds like the first part was, who kind of writes the queries or how does that work? And then it sounds like there is a question about customization for the queries. Is that
Yes. Who defines use cases for queries to be run? Are they
perfect?
standardized by LinkedIn? And can you speak on challenges to using clean rooms, like technical data or bandwidth?
Got it. Perfect.
Pardon.
So
Thank you.
yeah, no worries. I can definitely tackle the first one. And then, Christy, if you have anything on that second one or any challenges that you had or overcome, I'd love to hear, but I can also talk from, just across the advertisers I work with. But in terms of defining the use cases, as I mentioned, we typically do start with a core use case. And as it happens, that core use case typically is return on investment or an impact on pipeline. We are happy to start on other business questions, but that's typically the main one that drives it. And what happens is, we do have a template that is used, but you have the ability to customize it really as you need, right? So if you want to change clicks, impressions to be whatever your uniform is as an advertiser, you're able to do that within the clean room. If you want to bring in different lead sources, right? And because you want to break out by different segments, you have that ability to customize as well. So it really is this process where you are able to customize to make sure that the insights you're getting are actually applicable and really customized for you as an advertiser. It's not just every advertiser gets the same template and runs it, as we know that that's not helpful. That's not how B2B advertisers work, and that that wouldn't be actionable. So that's kind of on the defined use cases. And then in terms of speaking, in terms of I think one was like any challenges from the clean room
Mhm.
side, I think was the second part. So one, I guess the two main hurdles that typically come to mind with the clean room. One is usually privacy review during the whole approval process. It is a very lengthy process. The privacy team's really thorough. LinkedIn wants to be thorough, and LiveRamp wants to be thorough, and that's great. It just usually takes a lot longer than anticipated. And then the second usually is just making sure the data gets connected. Once you get that first initial connection, it gets a lot easier. And the LinkedIn team is there to help in terms of this is a recommended schema based on, again, the queries you want to run, as well as the LiveRamp team is really helpful in terms of troubleshooting errors, doing testing, and working with you, the advertiser, to set up that data connection.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We got a couple more questions for you, Benji, here, but if anyone else wants to jump in, that's great too.
I would just to
Oh,
build on
please,
that
please,
just
yes.
quickly with the challenges. So I think and what we see more broadly, I think Benji spoke to kind of the standard use cases. The biggest challenge that we see at LiveRamp and getting collaborations up and running again is that use case alignment. And so a lot of times we see like there might be a really custom kind of lofty question that the team wants to answer, and we find that a platform partner or publisher partner having some prepackaged insights and use cases to start is extremely helpful to just accelerate time to value and then work on the more custom things. So LiveRamp also provides kind of standard use cases and queries for other partners beyond LinkedIn as well. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we see. And then from the privacy standpoint, yes, totally agree with what Benji shared. That tends to be kind of the lengthy process. And that's really because this technology is still nascent and you're unlocking access and the ability to collaborate with data sets that historically have not been has not been possible because of what privacy protections looked like before clean rooms. So ultimately it's a good thing, and I think we're seeing that process speed up more and more as clean rooms progress. But yeah, I just echo what Benji shared on the
No, that's
privacy
great. I
side.
really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Allie.
It's
Sure.
Um,
such a great question. I'm also just going to chime in with a little bit more of a
please, please,
practical
please.
example
Yes.
if I
Yeah.
can. So again, start with the templates they have, but keep your expectations reasonable when you pull in the data. So we're still tweaking some of the data that we upload that we think might get us the answers that we want, and working with LinkedIn to customize the query and the way that we do it. Because one potential downside is that, it is in the clean room, it does stay private, so it flattens data in certain ways. So sometimes when we have access to all data, we can cut it and slice it and look at it a variety of ways. In this case, you do have to know what you're looking for, and you might
Mhm.
have to tweak the way that you're putting it in order to get out what you want. So, don't expect everything in the first go around. Expect that you'll have some iterations is probably what I would say.
That's great.
Great point.
Super helpful and very valuable. Um, Here's one, Benji. What data is available from LinkedIn within the clean room? Does it necessarily always need personally identifiable data?
Yeah, so uh, I guess two parts to that. So it sounds like one is what data is available from LinkedIn, and then the
Mhm.
second sounds like how do we match? So I can tag to that. So in terms of the data that we bring in, it really is all of the LinkedIn marketing data.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is you have data, as I mentioned, for our LinkedIn feed, you have data for our LinkedIn audience network. You also have data for our LinkedIn CTV, our LinkedIn events. And we are open to additional data that might need to be brought in here, right? As I mentioned, this is a collaborative process. So, for example, the LinkedIn events data was brought in because an advertiser said, that is what I want to measure. And we went through that process. So it's definitely a collaborative where we want to make sure that LinkedIn is bringing the right data for you, the advertiser, to get the answer to that business question. In terms of the second question of what data can we match off of, we can match off of, as I mentioned, both at the account level and at the individual level. For the individual level, we can do hashed emails, ramp IDs, LinkedIn URL, right? Like we're happy to have that conversation as well. If there's a particular type of ID you as an advertiser would want to match in the clean room, let's have that conversation. But the main takeaway is if we can't match to it, then we're going to have a zero match and there'll be no analytics for you. So we're happy to have that conversation.
That's great. Here's one for, I guess they could, I'll just throw it out there, and I think maybe people will have something to say. I think it's for Benji mostly, but I think there might be other people who have insights in this. What advice would you give to other companies looking to operationalize collaborative insights at scale?
I can maybe
Yeah,
speak to
please,
that
Ali.
first if you
Yes,
want,
yes,
and just
please.
I'll just give Benji a
I'm
voice
trying
rest for
to,
a sec.
I know, I feel bad, but I don't want to direct all of them to
No,
Benji.
that's
I'm
great.
trying to, yes.
No, that's great. I definitely want to hear from Benji on that as well. But I could just speak from the LiveRamp perspective more broadly. I think advice to operationalize it. What we've seen is having like it doesn't have to be a formal center of excellence, but that's what we call it. But just basically having a committee where you have ideally senior leadership buy-in. Christy spoke to this as well, right? Having like media or marketing buy-in and objectives. And then you have kind of the committee of, you also have folks on like partnerships or business development, right? Folks more on the technical front who can discuss more of like the data engineering pipeline and getting that data into the right format and schema in the cloud, making the data connections, et cetera, and privacy. So I would say like, kind of assign your like committee, your team, and ideally have like one person on point from each of those categories: strategy from marketing and media, um, privacy, technical, and then like a partnerships business development lead as well is really key. And then understanding who your key partners are to collaborate with are, right? So, and do you have the same use cases across those? And last thing, I know we've said this a number of times already, but just really clear alignment on what those first use case objectives are and being realistic about what can be achieved to start, and then where you can build from there.
I mean,
That's,
I think
oh, please, yeah, sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say that last piece that really Ali mentioned, like the single use case. I think the reason we keep harping on it is because I think all three of us have been in conversations where as soon as the clean room gets talked about, everyone's like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do everything. And then no one really knows where to start, is always where typically we
Mhm.
see things fall down. And so that's why like I think all three of us have harped on like it's great to have all those ideas. That's fantastic. But really start with just one so everyone can get behind it and get all these integrations, get the privacy reviews, get the teams bought in so you actually can start using it for all these great analytics and data. Because as Christy mentioned, it's really not just you do one report and then you're done, right? You do one report, you're probably going to tweak it a little, then you might do a different report. Now you have three reports. Now this other team wants to find out, and it just kind of expands. But really starting on that
Mhm.
first team, I think is so important.
That's so helpful. That's really valuable to hear. Thank you so much. How about one more question from the audience to cap off this really great discussion? Um, if I sell physical goods and advertise on LinkedIn, are clean rooms a good fit for my business? I think this can apply. Maybe everyone can have a chance to weigh in on this. Maybe so it's not just all Benji, but
Yeah, I guess the response I'd really have is the clean room is part of the LinkedIn measurement suite. So this is also a common conversation that I have with advertisers where, you might just think measurement and go clean room, and that might not actually be the best case, right? And so my recommendation here is really talk to your account team about what you're trying to do. Because as Christy mentioned, there might be other solutions in the LinkedIn toolkit that might be a much better fit than just immediately going um, to the clean room, right? And so for the person that sells physical goods, you're still advertising on LinkedIn. So there still is this question of impact between, what is the exposure on LinkedIn versus actually having that transaction in person. So yes, a clean room could be a good fit, but there might be a better solution as well. And that's where use your LinkedIn team really as that expert to help guide you.
Great.
excellent. Oh yes, please,
The
Ali.
one Yeah, no, that's fantastic. The one thing that comes to mind also whenever I hear like physical goods and more kind of transaction data, whether that's at a retailer or your first party transaction data, is the identity becomes really important, the identity resolution. And what we mean by that is, and this isn't specific to LinkedIn, although it's related to LinkedIn as well, but let's say you have, maybe you have name and postal on some of that transaction data, or you have email, or you have web conversion data for that purchase, and you're wanting to match to a platform or publisher partner who has other identifier touch points, CTV IDs or hash Gmail, et cetera. This is where kind of the LiveRamp identity built into the platform is helpful, as well as being able to bridge those gaps between various touch points and resolve those to the same person, ultimately to the same account. And also importantly, this kind of goes back to my first point about like resolving consumer and business data. So LiveRamp also has B2B resolution built into that identity, meaning, you might need to have the business email, whereas LinkedIn would have a consumer email. And so LiveRamp's identity can help resolve those various touch points.
Excellent. Well, Benji, Christy, Ali, thank you all so much for this great content, answering these wonderful questions from our audience, and just joining me for this panel discussion. This was great. We really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about our eMarketers media channels. Mark your calendars for eMarketers' next virtual summit. Join us next Friday, November 14th, for CTV and streaming advertising trends for 2026, featuring senior analyst Ross Benish and leaders from PepsiCo, Nutrafol, and more. Secure your spot today. And don't forget to register for more webinars like this one. And while you're at it, subscribe to our newsletters, all at emarketer.com. Again, thank you all so much again for joining us. Thanks to our audience for joining us. Thank you again to Benji, Christy, and Ali, the teams at LinkedIn and LiveRamp, and our eMarketer Studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the next Tech Talk.